Hey guys, tonight we're going way, way back. Before cities, before language, before even comfort had a word. The air is cold and the dark feels endless. Your breath makes clouds you can almost count, little ghosts escaping one by one. You crouch on bare earth under a moon that doesn't care whether you make it till morning. Somewhere out there, eyes gleam, pairs of them, patient and yellow. You can hear fur brushing against grass. You can't see your own hands. You are the slowest creature awake. You probably won't survive this. Before we begin, take a moment to hit like and subscribe, but only if you really connect with what I create here. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of the night. Now, dim the lights. Maybe light a candle for that soft, flickering glow, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The world before fire is a cold museum of instincts. Every sound is sharper, every heartbeat louder. You smell damp stone, wet fur, crushed leaves. Nights stretch for ages, and your species, still more animal than human, knows only waiting. Waiting for dawn, waiting for safety, waiting for warmth that never comes. You huddle with others, maybe five, maybe 10. The ground trembles under the low growl of something too close. The stars above burn like holes poked in a vast hide. There's beauty in it, sure, but also the kind of beauty that reminds you how small you are. Without fire, food stays raw, tough, crawling. You chew and chew, muscles aching, jaws stronger than your thoughts. Historians still argue whether this endless grinding shaped the faces of our ancestors, flattening skulls and forcing brains to wait their turn to grow. But for now, all you know is the taste of cold meat and the ache of trying to live another hour. A faint warmth from the day's sun still clings to certain rocks. You press your palms there, pretending. That's your first technology, pretending that something can last. Later, people will call it hope. For now, it's survival. The dark hums with secrets. You can't name the constellations, but you feel they're watching. Every flicker in the sky could be a god, or maybe just your mind reaching for light. The elders whisper sounds that might be words or spells, or just the rhythm of fear passing down. Somewhere deep inside, an idea stirs. The notion that maybe someday, night doesn't have to win. Your stomach growls louder than the wind. You curl tighter, bones pressing against each other like sticks waiting for friction. You close your eyes, imagining warmth the way a blind person imagines color. And for a moment, half dream, half memory, you almost feel it. A heat that doesn't burn, a glow that promises morning even in the dead of night. That's where it begins. Not with discovery, but with longing. Before we ever learned to make fire, we needed it, badly enough to dream it first. You wake to movement, the soft shuffle of bodies around you, the scent of damp fur and crushed moss. The world is gray now, barely dawn. The predators have vanished into their caves or dens, leaving behind paw prints that fill slowly with mist. You stretch, your spine cracking like dry bark, and notice the silence. Even the birds are quiet, as if they too are afraid of something larger than sound. Days without fire feel like one long bruise. You hunt, you eat what you can tear, and you shiver until your skin prickles numb. When rain comes, it's almost a kindness, washing the sweat and fear off you, but it also makes everything colder, wetter, slower. You rub your arms until the skin burns, trying to remember what warmth feels like. The nights are worse. When the moon hides, it's like the world forgets to exist. The stars offer no help. They only watch, far away, silent as bone. You stay close to the others, pressed so tightly together that your breaths merge into one creature's slow rhythm. Somewhere nearby, a baby cries softly. The sound is small but brave, the purest defiance of the dark. You find comfort in small things, the rough feel of bark, the smell of wild onions, the way your reflection ripples in a puddle. You don't have words for beauty yet, but you feel it like hunger. When the wind moves through tall grass, it sounds almost like whispering. You close your eyes and imagine the earth itself is trying to speak, to tell you a secret you're too young to understand. Historians still argue whether the earliest humans feared the dark more than they feared predators. Some say we feared silence most of all. Others believe it wasn't fear. It was curiosity, the ache to know what glowed in the distance, what shimmered just out of reach. Maybe that's the truth. You're not just surviving the night, you're waiting for a miracle. One evening, the miracle comes. A storm gathers, heavy with noise and motion. You smell metal in the air, a sharp, clean taste that makes your tongue tingle. The sky rips open. The first bolt strikes so close you can feel its vibration through your ribs. A tree explodes into brightness. You freeze. The world becomes something new, half alive, half dream. Light flickers on your face, gold and trembling. Smoke curls upward like something alive trying to escape. The others scream and scatter into the forest, convinced the sky has sent a monster. But you stay, breath locked in your throat. The brightness dances, sways, breathes. You can feel its heat even from where you stand. It's terrifying and beautiful. A sound like wood sighing fills the air. Sparks jump, hiss, vanish into the wet ground. You take a step closer. The air smells of sweetness and danger, sap, ozone, and something like cooked earth. You reach your hand toward it but stop inches away, your body arguing with your mind. The tree still burns. The rain can't kill it yet. You stand there for hours, watching light behave like an animal, feeding, breathing, reaching for air. Something inside you stirs again, deeper this time. Not fear, not curiosity. Something in between, like the moment before a heartbeat. When the storm passes, you're left with a blackened trunk still whispering smoke. The others return at dawn, cautious and wide-eyed. You point at it, trying to explain what you saw, but there are no words. There's only a gesture, hands spreading, palms open, as if to say, "Look, the world can glow." That's how the first encounter ends. Not with understanding, not even courage, but a sense that something new has arrived. The night won't ever be the same. Somewhere deep in your chest, under ribs and fear, a spark waits to answer back. For many days, you keep returning to that tree. The storm's gift still stands there, blackened, hollow, but faintly warm when you press your palm to the bark. Sometimes, when the wind is just right, a thin curl of smoke escapes from deep inside. You blow on it gently, curious. Nothing happens, but you feel closer to something unnamed. The others don't share your fascination. They watch from a distance, muttering low sounds that mean caution, that mean leave it be. To them, the fire was a punishment from the sky, not a gift. The elders say it devoured trees and frightened spirits, best not to disturb what belongs to gods. You half agree, but curiosity gnaws louder than fear. At night you dream about it. Flashes of gold moving through dark forests, sparks that dance on the edge of sleep. You wake with your fingers twitching, as if still reaching for it. Historians still argue whether early humans could make fire by this time or if they simply waited for nature's accidents. Lightning, lava, fallen branches still smoldering. Either way, the first step isn't creation, it's devotion. You become a worshiper of warmth. One afternoon, the air smells of rain again. Thunder rolls far away, and everyone rushes to shelter under stone. But you linger, scanning the horizon. You want the sky to split open again, just once more. When the storm finally cracks, it strikes another tree, closer this time. The flash blinds you, but when your eyes clear, there it is, living light, reborn. You approach carefully. The others shout for you to come back. You ignore them. The tree is already hissing, its bark peeling away like skin. Heat licks your face. You tear off a piece of dry branch nearby and hold it out. The tip darkens, smokes, then bursts into orange. You stumble backwards, startled but thrilled. You've caught a piece of lightning. The flame dances wildly, eating the branch faster than you can comprehend. It's alive, but also hungry. You wave it and it brightens. You lower it and it shrinks. The control is intoxicating, like steering the sky. You laugh, a sound that startles even you. But it doesn't last. The rain returns, soft at first, then harder. The branch hisses, sputters, dies. You stare at the blackened stick in disbelief, smoke curling like a sigh of disappointment. The others pull you away, scolding in low tones as if you've offended the world. Yet you can't stop grinning. You've seen what's possible. That night, your group huddles again beneath rock, the cold settling in like a slow ache. The memory of the flame burns hotter in your mind than the rain on your skin. You press the charred stick against your chest. You whisper, hoping the world can hear. Come back. Historians still debate what drove our ancestors to keep chasing that feeling. Some say it was warmth, some say it was protection. But maybe, just maybe, it was beauty. The first time nature let us hold color in our hands. The next morning, you notice something strange. Where the burnt stick touches dry leaves, faint smoke rises again. You blow gently, remembering the storm's breath. For a heartbeat, a flicker returns. Tiny, trembling, alive. You gasp. It vanishes again, but it happened. You've learned the first secret. Fire can sleep, and it can wake. You don't tell anyone. You just sit there in silence, tracing black ash across your fingers, watching sunlight pour through the trees. Everything feels different now, sharper, richer. The world hasn't changed, but you have. You're no longer waiting for miracles. You're chasing them. You begin to follow storms. When thunder rumbles, your heart leaps instead of sinking. The others see it as madness. Why chase what makes trees scream? But you know better now. The fire isn't a monster. It's a message, and you're learning its language one spark at a time. You travel farther than before, searching for the faint scent of smoke in the distance. Some nights you find only the smoldering remains of lightning's visit, a patch of grass still warm but a half-burned branch faintly glowing at its tip. You crouch close, blowing softly, guarding it with your hands. Most times it dies out, but once, just once, the ember catches. It flares, tiny but defiant. You cradle it in bark and dry moss, your breath trembling. It's too hot to touch, too precious to drop. You walk for hours like that, cupping the ember in a piece of wood, careful not to smother it. When you finally reach your group, Your hands ache, your eyes sting, and the others stare in disbelief. They circle you slowly, grunting warnings. The oldest among them throws sand on the glowing bark, but you wave her off. You point to the warmth, to the light spreading on your palms. One of the children reaches out a finger, giggling at the heat. The air feels alive again. That night, you build a small nest of leaves and twigs near the cave mouth. You place the ember in the center and blow until it breathes. The orange spreads outward, timid at first, then bolder. A wave of heat rolls over everyone. They retreat a little, unsure. You stay, eyes wide, feeling the power of something so simple it feels divine. For the first time, your group doesn't sleep in total darkness. Shadows dance on the walls, shapes of hands and faces flickering in motion. Someone laughs, someone cries. You watch their eyes reflect the flame, each pair shining with the same wonder you felt when the tree first burned. The night feels shorter now, softer. Historians still argue when exactly humans began to control fire. Some evidence suggests Homo erectus did it almost 1 million years ago in what is now Kenya or China. But whoever it was, the miracle felt the same. The moment warmth became a choice, not a gift. You've turned survival into art. The fire teaches you as much as you teach it. Feed it too little, and it dies. Feed it too much, and it devours everything. You learn patience, waiting until the wood catches, learning which branches whisper yes and which hiss no. You learn respect. As the night deepens, something else stirs, conversation, or at least the shape of it. You don't have words, but you make sounds, gestures, laughter. Fire gives rhythm to your thoughts. You point at sparks, at smoke twisting upward, and others join you, mimicking, murmuring. It feels good to speak, even if no one understands yet. Somewhere in the glow, you notice something you hadn't before. The light makes eyes shine, faces clearer, feelings visible. You see fear, curiosity, joy. You see yourself reflected in others for the first time. You stay awake until dawn. When the last flame sighs into ash, you blow on the coals, hoping to keep them alive. You find a flat stone and wrap the embers in bark before burying them shallow, promising yourself they'll still be there when you return. The others leave, but you keep looking back, seeing faint smoke rise from your secret. For the first time in history, someone is keeping fire, not as accident, not as worship, but as memory. And somewhere in that quiet morning, humanity takes its first real breath. Days pass before you return to the buried embers. The forest smells different now, wetter, calmer, filled with the sleepy hum of insects and the soft drip of leaves. You dig where you remember, your fingers dark with soil. For a while, there's nothing. Then, just as your chest starts to sink, you see it, a faint red pulse beneath the ash. You almost laugh out loud. It's alive. You gather dry moss, bark, and a few thin twigs, arranging them in a small nest. You lean close and blow, gentle at first, then firmer. Smoke swirls, and then the ember exhales back, tiny flames waking up like sleepy eyes. The warmth hits your face. You whisper a sound that means gratitude, though you don't yet have that word. That night, your tribe returns from the hunt early. They stop when they see the glow. Nobody moves for a long time. The old woman who once tried to bury your ember steps forward, kneels, and holds her hands to the heat. She doesn't speak, but her silence changes. You've turned fear into comfort. You guard the fire like a parent. You feed it even when you're hungry. You shield it when the wind grows wild. Others start helping, passing branches, fanning smoke, learning through imitation. There's a sense of purpose now, a new rhythm of existence. Days revolve not around the sun anymore, but around this quiet, breathing light. At night, strange things happen. People who never spoke begin humming softly. Children make shapes with their hands against the glowing walls. The light flickers across stone, and shadows dance, telling stories older than language. You realize that fire isn't just warmth, it's memory written in motion. Historians still debate whether storytelling was born from firelight. Some say it began with hunt reenactments. Others think it was simply a way to fill the long, safe hours that followed dinner. But anyone who's ever watched a flame knows how it hypnotizes thought into shape. You can almost hear words forming between the crackles. One evening, as sparks rise into the dark, you start to mimic them. Small bursts of sound, laughter spilling from your throat without reason. Someone joins you, then another. Soon, your whole group is caught in a rhythm of noise and joy. It's meaningless, and yet it means everything. You've invented the sound of happiness. Later, as the night grows cooler, you roast meat for the first time. The smell makes your mouth water before you even taste it. When you bite down, everything changes. The flesh is tender, smoky, full of flavor that wakes parts of your brain you didn't know existed. You pass it around. The tribe eats slowly, reverently. You notice how easy it is to chew now, how your stomach feels fuller, calmer. You don't know it, but your body is evolving, your teeth shrinking, your brain expanding. Cooking has made energy abundant. The long war between body and hunger is easing, and thought is finally allowed to grow. Somewhere deep in the forest, a leopard screams. You all freeze, but this time you don't run. You just add a branch to the flame, and the shadows leap outward, bold, protective. The predator doesn't come closer. You grin. The world outside the light suddenly feels smaller. You lean back, watching sparks drift into the night. Each one rises, fades, disappears. But not all vanish. Some might land miles away in another clearing, another future. And just like that, fire spreads, one ember at a time, passed hand to trembling hand, carried through rain, guarded through ages. What began as fear has become belonging. You no longer wait for morning, you've brought dawn into the night. In the following days, you start to understand fire's moods. It's not just a thing, it's a companion. It sighs when it's tired, snaps when it's hungry, hums softly when it's content. You begin to recognize those sounds like the breathing of someone you love. You experiment. You learn that dry wood feeds it faster, that certain twigs pop like laughter, while others burn slow and steady. You discover that bones, when thrown into the coals, make a strange, sweet scent, and the tribe murmurs that the spirits like it. Someone begins tossing herbs onto the fire just to see what happens, and the smell becomes sharper, cleaner. Soon the night air smells like comfort. Smoke curls upward, painting gray ribbons across the cave ceiling. The light flickers and makes everything move, the walls, your shadows, your thoughts. The children stare at it as if watching dreams made visible. You can almost believe that the smoke is carrying your wishes skyward. Historians still debate whether this was the moment religion began, when the first humans looked at rising smoke and thought, something is listening. Maybe it was. After all, How could you not believe in magic when a pile of sticks suddenly breathed? One evening, as you feed the flame, you notice that the oldest man in your group has stopped shaking from the cold. He sits quietly beside the fire, his skin soft in the glow. When he passes away a few days later, no one hides from his body in fear like before. Instead, you burn branches near him, believing that warmth will guide him somewhere beyond. You don't know the word ritual, but you've just made one. Fire changes everything you touch. You begin gathering stones, building a small circle around it to protect it from wind. The heat bounces off the rocks and comes back to you stronger. You realize the world can be shaped to hold warmth, not just endure it. The first hearth is born, half accident, half genius. Soon the hearth becomes the center of everything. People eat near it, sleep beside it, whisper their fears into it. At night, when sparks drift upward, they look like stars trying to come home. You start noticing other tribes across the plains. Sometimes far in the dark, a faint glow flickers, a fire that isn't yours. You feel a strange mix of awe and jealousy. Others have learned too. Maybe they stole an ember from your camp. Maybe they discovered it themselves. Either way, you realize something important. You're not alone in this new knowledge. Humanity has begun to glow in more than one place. One night, rain begins to pour. The fire coughs and shrinks, and panic floods the group. You throw bark, twigs, leaves, anything, but the flames keep sputtering. You find yourself crouched over it, arms curved like a shell, blocking the storm. Smoke fills your eyes, tears sting, your throat burns, but you don't stop. By morning, the rain has passed. Your face is streaked with soot, your hands blistered, but in the center of the ashes, one coal still breathes faintly red. Everyone gathers close, silent. You blow gently, whispering as if to a child. Slowly, the flame returns, small, flickering, alive. The tribe exhales as one. From that day forward, you're no longer just the one who found fire. You're its keeper. Others will come to you with sticks and stones, begging for light. You share it freely, teaching them what you've learned. That warmth isn't owned, it's tended. At night, as the fire dances again, you think of that first lightning strike, how something wild became something yours. The fire still crackles, still unpredictable, still a little dangerous. But when it lights your face, you can't help but smile. The world hasn't changed much around you. Trees still fall, rivers still roar, but inside that circle of light, something immense has shifted. For the first time, humans don't just survive the dark, they shape it. The days start to blur into seasons, and the rhythm of your life becomes measured by the fire's pulse. You wake when the embers are cool, feed it until it sighs back to life, and sleep only when it's steady. The glow fills your dreams now. You see it even when your eyes are closed, dancing behind your lids like an old friend waving from the dark. Children who were once afraid of night now play in its edges. They toss dry leaves into the fire and watch them vanish in tiny bursts of gold. They don't remember a time when the dark had teeth. The flame has softened the world, made it smaller, gentler, even kind. During the cold months, when rain turns to frost and every breath feels like glass, the fire becomes your anchor. You huddle around it while wind howls outside the cave. The walls tremble, but the flame stands its ground, proud and defiant. You hold your hands to it, palms glowing orange, and think, this is what power feels like. Historians still argue about when humans began to control their environments, but it's clear that this, right here, is the beginning. Fire is more than heat, it's boundary. It says, here is inside, there is outside. You've built the first home, not from walls, but from light. You begin to experiment more boldly. You discover that smoke drives away insects and that certain woods smell better than others when burned. You notice that bones, when heated long enough, crack open to reveal rich, fatty marrow. You learn that dried animal dung burns too, something that will later make you both proud and very unpopular with anyone standing downwind. One day, while feeding the fire, you drop a stone into the coals by accident. When you fish it out later, it's cracked and glows faintly. You touch it and flinch. The surface is hot, but beneath it feels different, denser. You don't know it yet, but you've just witnessed the first whisper of transformation, the beginning of metallurgy, the birth of every tool and weapon to come. But for now, it's still a mystery, one that smells like iron and ash. The tribe grows larger. Other families join, drawn by the glow they can see miles away. At night, your cave looks like a star fallen to earth. Strangers approach cautiously, their eyes wide, their bodies thin with cold. You gesture for them to come closer, to share. The warmth bridges what words can't. Fire has turned survival into community. You eat together, you laugh together, and when danger approaches, you face it together. The light doesn't just protect, it unites. Of course, it's not all peace. Fire also reveals faces in a new way. Jealousy, suspicion, hunger. Shadows make everyone look different. You notice how the glow flickers across eyes and changes them, how truth and deceit both live comfortably beside the flame. You learn something else about power. It's never entirely safe. Still, you can't imagine life without it. Every night, when the last sparks fade, you feel uneasy until you see the faint red pulse in the coals. The elders tell you stories, half warning, half lullaby, about what happens if the flame ever dies. Some say the world would freeze over. Others whisper that gods would turn their backs. You believe both. Historians still debate whether fire shaped early myths of creation, of gods bringing light into chaos. But sitting here, staring into your own small sun, you don't need debate. You feel it. Fire didn't just change the world outside you, it rewired the world within. As dawn comes, you feed the embers one last branch. The smoke rises in slow spirals, curling into the pink morning air. You watch it fade, thinking how strange it is that something so fragile could hold so much meaning. The day begins with warmth, and for the first time in history, the future doesn't feel cold. As the years pass, the fire becomes more than a tool. It becomes a companion to time itself. Every sunrise begins with coaxing embers back to life. Every evening ends with the soft hiss of wood giving up its light. The rhythm of it seeps into everything, breathing, working, sleeping. Even silence now has the soft heartbeat of crackling coals underneath. You start to notice patterns. Certain stones darken differently near the fire. Some even change shape when left too long. You find that if you place food close but not too close, it changes. Its smell grows rich, its color deeper. Meat browns instead of blackening, tubers soften and turn sweet. You don't know it yet, but you've just discovered the foundation of cooking. That night, the tribe gathers, drawn by the smell. You divide the food carefully, watching faces as they take the first bites. The reaction is immediate. wide eyes, slow chewing, the quiet sound of joy. The elders nod approval, and the children giggle as they lick grease from their fingers. You smile without meaning to. Historians still debate whether the control of fire directly led to human intelligence or if it merely accelerated what nature had already set in motion. But standing here, watching your people grow calmer, warmer, fuller, you'd argue it's both. The fire feeds not just the body, but the mind. The long nights once filled with fear are now filled with stories, songs, experiments. The world feels less like a cage and more like a workshop. Soon, you begin to build habits around it. You keep stones nearby to retain warmth through the night. You build small circles at the edges of camp so new flames can be started easily. Some people even take embers with them when they travel, carrying warmth through the wilderness in shells and bark. The fire spreads, not wildly like a storm, but softly by hand and heart. You notice how faces look in firelight, softened, alive. The old woman who once scolded you now sits close every night, her wrinkles glowing like carved wood. She hums to herself, rocking gently as though the fire listens. Maybe it does. The sound of burning wood is soothing, rhythmic, almost like breathing. You find yourself humming along. Sometimes when everyone sleeps, you stay awake just to watch it. The sparks rise, drift, and vanish into the dark. Each one feels like a small spirit leaving, carrying a message somewhere beyond the stars. The sky above mirrors it. Thousands of tiny lights, millions of unseen fires. You feel connected to them, to everything that glows. The fire begins to shape your sense of time. The flicker marks the hours, the dying embers warn of dawn. Seasons become cycles of gathering wood, hunting when it's dry, sheltering when it's wet. The world is still vast and dangerous, but now it has rhythm, and rhythm feels like hope. One evening, lightning flashes again in the distance, but this time no one runs. You all watch calmly, understanding now that the sky's fire and your own are relatives, not enemies. The thunder doesn't sound like punishment anymore, it sounds like applause. Historians still debate whether early humans personified fire, saw it as a god, a spirit, a friend. Looking at it now, you can see how easy that would be. The flame gives and takes, that rewards and punishes, lives and dies. It demands respect, and in return it offers belonging. The night deepens. The forest whispers around you, but the shadows no longer frighten. The light paints everything in copper and gold. You can hear the faint laughter of children half asleep, their dreams wrapped in warmth. You lean back, feeling your heartbeat match the gentle pulse of the fire. It's strange to think that once the dark owned you. Now you've named it, softened it, made it your own. You stare at the flame, and for a long moment it feels like it stares back, steady, patient, ancient, as if it already knows how far this light will travel through time. Over time, the fire becomes the center of your world. Its glow, not just a circle of safety, but a circle of meaning. You begin to realize that everything important happens within its reach. Children are born near it, old ones pass beside it, and stories rise and fall like sparks caught on the wind. You can tell how deep a night is just by the color of the coals. You sit with your tribe, each of you turned toward the flame the way flowers turn to the sun. There's something magnetic about it, something that holds you in its orbit. Conversations begin around it, simple ones at first, pointing, laughing, mimicking the fire's sounds. Later, when gestures become words, those words seem to form easier in the glow. It's as if fire has burned a doorway open inside your head. Historians still argue whether language and fire evolved together, but looking at the mouths moving around you, you'd swear they did. The rhythm of crackle and breath gives structure to speech, the pauses between pops filling the gaps between thoughts. You find yourself murmuring softly, words spilling out like smoke, their meanings half formed but real enough to make others smile. The fire listens, or maybe it just pretends to. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you now have something to speak to. Sometimes you stare at the smoke and think of things beyond sight, places where it goes, spirits it might meet, memories it might carry. The others start tossing small offerings into the flame, bits of fruit, hair, dried flowers. Each one curls into smoke, and you all sit in silence watching it rise. You don't call it prayer, but that's what it is. At dawn, when the sky begins to glow pale blue, the fire looks almost embarrassed, shrinking back as light returns. But even then, the warmth lingers, a reminder that the sun isn't the only thing that gives life. You've learned to make your own dawns. One morning, while tending to the ashes, you notice something unusual. Beneath the charred logs, tiny red stones glimmer faintly. They're smooth, shiny, almost glass-like. You don't know it, but they're melted minerals, evidence of temperatures no one before you has ever witnessed. You roll them between your fingers, fascinated. Fire has changed the earth itself, and in quiet ways, it's changed you too. Your skin smells faintly of smoke now. Your eyes adjust quickly to dark and light. You no longer fear the night's creatures. They circle from afar, cautious of this strange animal that holds the power of the stars in its hands. You notice that when you sit close to the flame, your thoughts drift differently. You remember things in detail: the shape of a footprint, the direction of the wind, the echo of someone's laughter. Fire makes memory sharper, maybe because it gives you time to think. For the first time, there are hours in the night that aren't filled with fear or exhaustion. They're filled with reflection. Historians believe this quiet time, those slow, safe hours by the fire, may have been when imagination itself began. The mind, freed from survival, started to wander. Maybe that's true, because as you stare into the flame, you start seeing shapes in it: animals, faces, movement. You whisper stories about what you see, and others listen. Some laugh, some gasp, all of them drawn closer. And so the first myths are born, not written, not carved, but spoken into firelight and carried into smoke. Each retelling adds a spark, and each spark becomes another ember in the endless chain of memory. You don't know it, but what you're doing will echo for millennia. Someday, children will sit beside different fires, candles, hearths, city lights, screens, and tell stories too. All of it will trace back here to this single circle of warmth in a cold and watchful world. You sit back, listening to the soft hiss of the logs. The flames lean and stretch, never still, never tired. You think of the storms that once terrified you, of the first burning tree, of the moment your hands caught light and didn't let go. The fire's journey mirrors your own, wild at first, then tamed, then shared. And as night deepens, you realize something gentle but vast. The world isn't silent anymore. It hums softly now, with fire, with breath, with the sound of people unafraid to dream. The years pass, and what began as one small ember becomes the rhythm of generations. Fire is no longer a miracle, it's a responsibility. Each evening, someone must tend it, feed it, whisper to it. You teach the younger ones how to choose wood that sings when it burns, not spits. They listen carefully, as though you're passing on something sacred. You are. When you travel now, you no longer walk blind through the forest. You carry a glowing coal wrapped in bark and moss, protecting it like a heartbeat. When night comes, you unwrap it and coax it to life. The orange glow spills across your face, the familiar scent of smoke curling around you. It's like bringing a piece of home wherever you go. Other tribes do the same. You see distant lights on the plains at night, little stars scattered across the dark earth. The world is lighting itself, one campfire at a time. Historians still debate how early humans spread fire between groups. Some say traders carried embers long before they carried tools. Others think sparks were gifts exchanged during gatherings, symbols of trust. Maybe both are true. When you hand someone fire, you're giving them more than warmth. You're giving them survival. It's the purest form of sharing there is. Fire changes your days too. You begin to cook everything, roots, seeds, fish from the river. The taste of burnt fat becomes a comfort, a sign that food is safe. Illness strikes less often now. You grow stronger, your body lean but steady. The tribe thrives. Children play farther from the cave, confident that a flame waits for them when they return. At night, new things happen. Someone starts tapping sticks together in rhythm. Another hums, then another. Soon the camp fills with a soft pulse of sound, music, though you don't know the word. The fire flickers in time with it, throwing shadows that dance on the walls. You realize that warmth isn't only for the body, it's for the spirit too. The sky above seems closer these days. When you look up, the stars don't feel so cold. You recognize the reflection, the same flicker, the same endlessness. It's strange to think you've mimicked the heavens without meaning to. The gods once lived above you, now they live here in the fire's heart. Historians still argue whether early rituals around fire marked the beginning of religion or simply gratitude wrapped in habit. But as you sit before the flames, your hands folded, your breath slow, it feels like prayer. Every crackle is an answer, every spark a benediction. You start to mark time by ashes. The thick gray powder tells you how long the fire has burned. When it piles high, you scatter it on the wind, believing it carries away your worries. The smell of smoke clings to your hair, your skin, your furs. It becomes the smell of living itself. Sometimes the fire misbehaves. A gust of wind sends sparks into dry grass, and in seconds the glow turns wild. The tribe panics, scrambling for water, dirt, anything to stop the spread. You manage to contain it, but the lesson is seared into your mind. Power is never free. Later, you sit by the rekindled flame, watching its smaller, gentler dance. You feel both fear and affection. It's like raising a wild creature. You can guide it, but never truly own it. As the night cools, the forest hums softly beyond the firelight. The children are asleep, curled near the warmth, their faces peaceful. You lean back, listening to the fire's slow breathing. You think of the ones who came before you, the ones who ran from lightning, who trembled at the first spark. You wish they could see this now, the laughter, the warmth, the way the night itself seems to lean closer, listening. You don't know it, but this quiet mastery, the taming of flame, is what will set your kind apart. You've entered a new era without naming it. And though you can't see that far ahead, somewhere deep down you feel it. This is only the beginning of everything. By now, fire is as much a part of you as breath. You can't remember the world before it. The constant trembling in the dark, the hollow ache in your bones. The night no longer feels endless. It feels like home. You wake to ashes, you sleep to glow, and in between, you live. The tribe grows restless and bold. With fire at your side, you wander farther into the unknown. The forests that once frightened you now open like pages in a book. The animals still watch from the shadows, but they keep their distance. A ring of orange light follows wherever you go, turning danger into space. One morning, you arrive at a riverbank. The air is cool and thick with fog. You crouch by the water to drink, and the reflection startles you. Your face flickers with streaks of soot and gold. For the first time, you see what you've become, a creature that carries the sun in its eyes. Historians still debate when humanity began to see itself as separate from nature, as something more than animal. Maybe it started here with fire. The warmth sets you apart and yet binds you closer to everything alive. You no longer chase light, you make it. And that realization changes everything. Soon you learn to use fire not just for comfort but for creation. You wave torches at wild animals to drive them away. You burn patches of dry grass to flush out prey. You clear space for gathering, for rest, for beginnings. What was once a miracle is now a tool, and what was once a tool is now power. Power brings questions. One day, you catch yourself staring too long at a trapped flame, wondering, what if this could do more? You toss a stone into the embers again, this time on purpose, watching it change color. When you strike two rocks together, sparks leap. A small miracle repeated by your own hands. It's rough, uncertain, but enough to make your heart race. You've done what the gods once did. You've stolen lightning. The others crowd around, murmuring sounds of awe and fear. You show them the motion again, stone against stone, spark against air, and soon laughter fills the camp. You've freed fire from storms, from chance. The sky no longer decides who freezes and who lives. Humanity does. Historians still argue whether early fire making began with friction or flint, whether it was discovered in Africa, Asia, or Europe. The details blur across time, but the feeling, the first self-made spark, remains universal. It's the moment control became invention. With that discovery, life changes fast. No longer must you carry embers through rain or guard coals through the night. You can make light whenever you wish. Fire no longer owns your fear, it answers to your will. You teach others the rhythm of it, the scrape, the breath, the patience. It spreads faster than any rumor. Villages form around those who know the secret, and for the first time people gather not by blood, but by knowledge. The firekeepers become teachers, the teachers become leaders, and slowly stories turn into systems, habits into culture. Each new flame tells a story, this one for warmth, that one for celebration, another for grief. The light shifts with emotion, bright and wild for laughter, low and steady for mourning. You've given the night a language, but fire still keeps its temper. Sometimes it leaps beyond control, racing through grasslands, devouring homes. When that happens, you remember how small you truly are. You watch the horizon burn, helpless, and realize that mastery and humility are the same lesson written in different colors. When the smoke clears, the earth smells clean again. Black soil, fresh shoots of green, fire destroys, but it also renews. The tribe rebuilds stronger each time, their faith in the flame unbroken. You begin to understand it's not just what fire gives, it's what it teaches. As the years pass, you grow old, your hair gray with ash. Each wrinkle feels carved by heat and smoke. At night, you sit by the same flame you once feared, your hands steady, your gaze soft. You watch the children feed it now, their laughter echoing through the cave. The world turns warm in their faces. You smile, knowing that long after you're gone, this will continue. The spark will move from hand to hand, story to story, memory to memory. You've started something that will outlive you, that will carry your name even after language forgets it. And in the quiet of the night, as the last ember glows, you feel something like peace. The flame hums low, steady, eternal. You lean close, whispering your final thought into its warmth. Thank you. Then, as you close your eyes, the fire breathes on, unbroken. After you're gone, your tribe still gathers around the fire. They speak of you in low voices, sometimes laughing, sometimes quiet. The children who never met you know your name from the stories told in the flicker. They imagine you with soot-streaked cheeks and sparks in your eyes, the one who first dared to touch the living light. Time keeps flowing like smoke. The tribe moves from cave to plain, from forest to valley. They take the fire with them, each generation teaching the next how to feed it, how to keep it breathing through rain and wind. The glow never dies, it simply changes hands. Historians still debate whether these early fire rituals became the roots of civilization. Maybe they did. Every village, no matter how small, keeps a central flame, a hearth that never sleeps. Around it, people gather to plan, to eat, to love, to mourn. The fire becomes more than warmth. It becomes identity. You can almost see it, ages unfolding in the shimmer of the flame. The first clay pots hardening in its heat, painted with ash and red earth. The first metal glowing white, beaten into shapes that fit the hand. Spears, knives, art, fire forges them all. The sound of crackling wood becomes the heartbeat of progress. The world changes faster now. Fire spreads into every corner of human life. You can picture the glow on faces bending over new discoveries. The first forge roaring like thunder, the first kiln humming with promise, the first cooked bricks stacking into walls. Villages become towns, towns become cities, and everywhere always the same light burns at the center. Still, for all its gifts, fire never loses its edge. Every few generations, someone forgets its temper. Entire forests burn, homes vanish in waves of heat, and people remember too late that fire is both servant and sovereign. But even in ruin, it teaches. New soil grows richer after flame. New stories rise from ashes. The pattern repeats. Creation, destruction, renewal. It's the same dance you watched in the first storm, only now stretched across continents and centuries. One evening, long after your tribe has become legend, a child in another age stares into her village's hearth. The firelight paints her face gold as she listens to her grandmother speak of ancestors who tamed the storm. She doesn't know your name, but she feels you in the warmth, in the rhythm of the crackles. Something in her eyes says she will carry the light forward again. Historians still argue about how memory travels before writing, how knowledge survives the centuries without ink. The truth is simpler. It travels in flame. Every fire tells the same story in its own language of light and breath. Every flicker is a message passed down through time. The child grows up. Her people build bigger fires, brighter ones. They learn to make torches that burn longer, lamps that tame the wind. Someone somewhere traps the flame in oil, and suddenly the night belongs entirely to humans. The stars look down, surprised. Centuries pass like sparks. Fire shapes metal into plows and swords, glass into windows, sand into mirrors. It becomes the invisible thread stitching the world together. Empires rise by its glow, fall by its blaze. The fire you once cradled in bark now fuels whole civilizations. Yet every person who lights a flame feels something ancient stir in their chest, a quiet awe, a whisper of the same fear and wonder you once felt. No matter how many ages pass, that feeling doesn't fade. Even when humans learn to summon light without smoke, to trap it in wires and glass, they still keep candles on tables, campfires on beaches, small flickers in dark rooms, a reminder of where warmth first began. And somewhere, in the hush of every flame, your story burns on wordless, endless, alive. The centuries roll forward like waves of heat. Fire follows wherever humanity dares to go. In every settlement, from desert to tundra, there's a place built around its light. A hearth, a torch, a lamp. You could walk from one end of the world to the other and never be completely lost, because there will always be a glow somewhere waiting for you. The people who come after your people learn to speak more easily, to write, to record. They give the fire 1,000 names: spirit, God, engine, electricity. It changes form, but never heart. You would recognize it instantly. The same orange dance, the same soft hiss that sounds like breathing. When they build temples, they keep an eternal flame burning in the center. When they forge new metals, they bend them to the rhythm of heat you once watched in the forest. Even when they begin to travel the seas, their ships carry lanterns on the mastheads, tiny, stubborn suns guiding them home. Historians trace these lines in fragments: ashes, soot, pottery hardened by heat. But what they're really seeing is a chain of moments, one ember touching another, reaching all the way back to you. In time, the fire becomes imagination itself. Painters grind ash into pigments. Poets call their inspiration a spark. Lovers say they feel a flame between them. You never planned it, but the world learned to use your wordless discovery as the shape of every beautiful thing. Still, fire remains wild. Cities burn, forests vanish, entire empires crumble under their own light. Every age rediscovers both reverence and fear. It's the same lesson the storm first whispered to you. Nothing that gives life is ever fully safe. And yet people keep lighting candles. They gather around fireplaces on winter nights, telling stories to the quiet crackle. Children trace shapes in the air above campfires. Adults watch embers drift into the sky. The gestures haven't changed in a million years. The historians of your far future will find your traces in the soil: burn marks, layers of carbon, tiny stones that melted long ago, and they'll talk about early human innovation in calm, distant tones. But you'd smile if you heard them. It wasn't innovation, it was longing made visible, because that's all fire ever was: a way of keeping hope warm enough to survive the night. And when the world grows louder, Machines, factories, roaring furnaces, the same pulse still beats beneath it. Every flick of a switch, every engine spark, every light glowing in a window after dusk, all of it is just your ember, dressed in modern clothes. Somewhere, maybe far into the future, someone sits in a dark room with a candle burning low. The flame wobbles as they breathe, and for a second, the whole universe feels small enough to fit in that circle of light. They watch it and think, how strange that something so old still feels alive. And in that moment, without knowing it, they're sitting beside you again by that first fire, that first warmth, that first soft miracle that said, we're here. We made it through the dark. The story of fire stretches further still, threading through ages of invention and wonder. Humans begin to trap it in stranger ways, inside furnaces that roar with molten stone, inside engines that spin and carry them across continents, inside rockets that break through the ceiling of the sky. Each time, the same heartbeat of heat, the same bright pulse that once flickered against a cave wall. You would not recognize the shapes of their tools, but you would understand their faces, the way they lean close to a glow, eyes wide, lips parted in the quiet astonishment of creation. Every inventor is still that same cold ancestor staring at a burning tree, feeling both terror and belonging in the same breath. Fire has become language now. It powers the words sent through wires, the lights in 1,000 cities that never sleep. It hums beneath metal streets, curls behind glass, hides in the core of machines that speak in numbers instead of songs. People walk among invisible flames and call it electricity, fusion, progress. But it's all the same story, the desire to make light from nothing. Historians still argue about whether humanity could have survived without this discovery, whether intelligence alone would have been enough. But look at them now, scattered across the earth and beyond it, carrying little pockets of warmth wherever they go. The evidence glows in every horizon. Even when fire no longer burns wood or smoke, it burns in spirit. The word itself, fire, still means more than flame. It means passion, courage, anger, love. It means everything alive. The descendants of your tribe use it to describe what pushes them forward, what keeps them alive through cold years and long nights. They speak of the fire within. They are right to. It's yours. And sometimes, despite all their engines and lamps and screens, people still seek the real thing. They leave their towers and go into the wild to build a campfire, to watch sparks rise into a dark sky unspoiled by cities. They sit together, shoulders touching, faces lit in orange and gold, and fall silent. For a while, the rush of centuries fades. They are you again, awed, small, safe. A single log shifts in the embers. A faint hiss, a sudden flare. Someone adds another stick, and the light strengthens, humming softly like a memory that refuses to go out. The fire leans and dances, throwing warm light across their eyes, and for a moment it seems to recognize them too. It's strange how 1,000,000 years can pass, yet this moment stays the same. The hush, the warmth, the flicker that turns fear into story. The dark presses in but never wins. The world breathes, and the flame answers, steady as ever. The night is long, but the light is endless. The years stretch onward, centuries curling into one another like smoke. Humanity learns, forgets, and learns again. Great cities rise, made of glass and steel that shimmer like frozen fire. Whole nations glow at night, oceans of light where darkness used to live. From the sky, the planet itself looks like an ember, alive and breathing. You would recognize the glow instantly. It's the same warmth that once lit your hands, only now multiplied 1,000-fold. It hums through every street lamp, flickers in every window, fills every home with quiet promise. You are safe here. But if you listen closely, beneath all the buzz and hum, you can still hear the faint crackle of the original flame. In this new age, fire lives in different forms. It powers hearts made of steel, minds made of code. It burns invisibly in data centers, in the silent cores of machines that think faster than wind. Humanity has taught the flame to speak mathematics, to whisper in electrons instead of smoke. Yet even now, it still speaks the same truth. Creation costs something. Historians of this future still argue about where the beginning truly lies. Some say intelligence began with words, others claim it began with warmth. But you know the answer. You've lived it. The first tool, the first myth, the first act of courage, they all came from that first decision to touch what could destroy you. And so the story repeats. A scientist watches a reactor ignite, light flooding her face. She's not thinking about the equations, the years of research. She's thinking about her grandmother's campfire in the woods, the way the smoke smelled like pine and safety. The same awe runs through her veins as it did through yours. We've made the dark smaller again. Others keep the old rituals alive. People still gather for bonfires at the edge of the sea, tossing salt into the flames just to see them turn green and blue. They still roast food, still tell stories, still fall quiet in the glow. They don't need it anymore, not for heat or safety, but they crave it just the same, because the fire, even now, makes them human. Somewhere in a quiet forest, an old man tends a single flame in a stone bowl. He calls it a memorial, though he doesn't say for whom. The wind moves through the trees like breath. The fire flutters but doesn't die. He stares into it, and for a moment he feels every ancestor who ever did the same. And maybe that's what immortality really is. Not living forever, but being remembered in warmth. Historians still debate whether humanity's next leap will be made of light or of thought. They imagine minds uploaded to data, worlds built inside algorithms, suns created from fusion. But you know the truth hiding inside all that ambition. No matter how far we go, we'll always need a little warmth in the dark. You can see it now, the shape of the whole story. It isn't progress or invention or destiny. It's a single motion, repeating forever, hands reaching toward light. The galaxies themselves burn with the same impulse. Every star is an echo of that first spark. Every sunrise a retelling of the same moment, the one when you leaned forward, terrified, and felt heat for the first time. The universe, in its endless patience, keeps replaying that scene in every language of flame. And when humanity finally looks beyond the stars and builds their homes among them, they'll still gather around small circles of warmth, tiny fires glowing against impossible distances, not because they need it, but because they miss it. Because nothing ever replaces the way fire sounds when it breathes, the way it moves like a living thought, the way it listens without answering. Even now, wherever you are, you can feel it, the faint hum of light somewhere near you. Maybe from a candle, maybe from a screen, maybe from your own heartbeat. The same pulse that began this story is still here, steady, patient, waiting for you to notice. The dark outside presses close, gentle now, no longer an enemy. You've taught it to be kind. The flame sways softly, smaller and smaller. The air is warm, calm, forgiving. You close your eyes and the glow follows you inward, settling behind your eyelids like a secret star. The story that began with lightning ends with peace. The world hums on, the fire safe inside every living thing that remembers how to reach for light. The ember holds, the night sighs, the story sleeps, and you too can rest now, warm, unafraid, eternal in the glow you made. The fire drifts inside everything now, quiet, patient, unseen. It hums in wires, in circuits, in the veins of every living cell. You can feel it if you close your eyes, a faint warmth beneath the skin, the steady rhythm of heat turning into thought. People begin to understand that they carry the old flame within them. Scientists talk about metabolism, about energy, about chemical reactions that mimic combustion. Poets call it the soul. Different words, same glow. Every breath you take is a spark kept alive, oxygen meeting carbon, the softest fire in the world. The more we learn, the more familiar it feels. Stars are born, they say, from collapsing clouds that ignite. The same story, just written larger. Fire as the universe's handwriting. Even the cold of space isn't silence, it's waiting, a pause before the next spark. The cosmos itself seems to echo your gesture from that night long ago, the reaching out. In the future cities, people build artificial suns that hang in the sky, floating orbs of light that mimic dawn on command. They no longer fear the dark, but they still miss it. Sometimes they dim the lights just to remember what shadows look like. In those quiet hours, they gather again, on rooftops, beside fountains, in corners of old parks, to light real fires. Not for warmth, not for need, but for remembrance. The flames still sound the same, a low, whispering breath. The air still changes texture around it, soft, alive. Someone hums a song no one remembers writing, but everyone knows. The melody sounds ancient, like the rhythm of rain on stone. The fire sways to it, gentle as sleep. Children toss sticks into it and count how many sparks rise before they vanish. Lovers hold hands near it, fingers glowing. The elders stare quietly, their faces silver with memory. The light doesn't just touch skin, it seeps inward, awakening something wordless and familiar. Historians of this era, what a strange profession to have survived so long, still argue over origins. They trace myths of Prometheus, of lightning gods, of stolen suns, each culture's version of that first touch. But they miss the real myth, not of stealing fire, but of learning how to share it. The cities beyond glow constantly, powered by fuels that began as forests that once burned. Whole worlds run on the memory of flame. Ships travel between planets on light alone, carrying warmth across the dark like lanterns swinging through eternity. Yet wherever they go, people still build small circles of fire. It's not nostalgia, it's instinct. The same pull that made you crouch beside a burning tree still draws them closer. One evening, far from Earth, a colony ship floats above an ocean of clouds. The passengers gather in a glass chamber as the captain lights a symbolic flame, tiny, enclosed, trembling. The fire burns under artificial gravity, its reflection multiplied 100 times across mirrored walls. They all fall silent, staring at it as though it were alive. And it is. Someone whispers, "It looks like home." Someone else says, "It feels like remembering." And in that silence, for a breathless moment, humanity stretches backward through time, all the way to you, the first keeper of light. The fire still dances. The story still glows. It waits, as it always has, for the next hand to reach forward. Outside, stars flicker like embers scattered across infinity. Inside, a small flame burns steady, fragile, eternal. It's strange to think the same element that once frightened you now fuels worlds, that the warmth you dreamed of in the cold night has become the power to reach galaxies. And yet, even after all this distance, the essence hasn't changed. Light against dark, hope against fear, breath against silence. You lean closer to the fire, whatever form it takes now, and feel that same pull of peace. The air hums softly. The world breathes with you. You have not reached the end of Fire's story. You are still inside it. Light fills everything now. It runs through the veins of the world like blood. The seas sparkle with tiny motes of bioluminescence. Cities shimmer through thin air. Even the night sky looks alive with the pulse of distant engines. Yet none of it feels foreign. It's all the same pulse. One endless conversation between dark and light that began with your trembling hands cupping an ember. On quiet nights, when the wind dips and the noise fades, people still find places untouched by neon or hum. They bring real wood, real tinder, and coax an honest fire to life. The way it catches, the way smoke curls upward, the way faces bend closer, it's the oldest gesture left in the universe. You can almost hear your own breath in theirs, stretched thin across millennia. Fire has made humanity curious about everything that glows. They've built machines that mimic stars, telescopes that peer into the cosmic forge where matter first burned itself into existence. They name galaxies after gods of flame, after torches, after sparks. The deeper they look, the more they see the same pattern repeated endlessly: ignition, expansion, fading, renewal. Historians keep writing. They debate whether the discovery of fire was a single event or a slow awakening across many tribes. The question doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the echo. The flame has carried thought itself, an unbroken current of wanting to understand. Every field of knowledge still burns in its own way. Physics, poetry, music, all just forms of keeping light alive. On one distant world, the air thin and blue, a traveler camps beside a lake of ice. She builds a small fire and watches it fight against the cold wind. The reflection ripples on the frozen surface, one living color in a world of white and shadow. She smiles, whispering softly, "It's beautiful because it could die." The words drift away, lost in the hiss of melting frost. She opens her hands toward it, palms open the same way you once did. The warmth touches her skin, but something deeper moves too. A memory older than memory. The feeling that this act connects her to everyone who ever lived. Somewhere far across the stars, another flame flickers in another shelter, and though they will never meet, their lights know each other. The fire has learned to recognize itself, even through distance, even through time. In that connection lies the secret. Fire doesn't just burn fuel, it burns meaning. It turns fear into safety, chaos into pattern, night into story. It turns being alive into being awake. Children of that far era will play with light as easily as you once played with twigs. They'll sculpt it into music, into color, into soft living art. But every once in a while, they'll stop and stare at a real flame, the kind that eats air and sighs and falls silent, because something inside them still understands that this little brightness, this tender hunger, is where everything began. Historians will keep arguing. They can't help it. They'll measure the carbon in old ashes, trace the soot inside ancient caves, but what they'll never quite capture is the sound, the low murmur of humans gathered close, voices blending with the rhythm of the fire's breathing. That sound has never vanished. It's in the hum of engines, the static of radios, the purr of electricity in your walls. Even now, as you sit here in the glow of your own chosen light, it speaks softly to you, the same invitation whispered since the beginning. Come closer. Rest. Listen. You breathe in, slow and deep. The warmth settles through you. Somewhere in the hush, you can almost feel the cave walls again, the cool stone, the smell of smoke, the promise of survival turning into comfort. You haven't lost it. You never could. The dark presses close, but it's gentle now. The fire sways, steady and alive. It hums the only lullaby it's ever known, the song of things that endure. And in that hum, you realize this isn't the end of fire's story. It's just your turn to keep it burning. Light keeps its slow rhythm through the centuries. The world hums like a hearth. There are still storms, still nights when power fails and whole cities gasp in sudden darkness. And always, someone lights a match. The tiny flare blooms like memory, steadying the breath of everyone nearby. The sound is the same soft sigh that began everything. The shape of the flame hasn't changed. No matter how many inventions surround it, its dance remains humble and patient, always leaning toward air, always folding back into itself. People stare at it when words run out. They remember how to be still. Some keep the fire in their work. Glass blowers, potters, metal workers, hands moving through heat with reverence. The same gestures carved into the body's memory 1,000,000 years ago. They feed the flame. Wait, listen. It answers in color, in shape, in strength. It reminds them that creation requires risk, that beauty is never born from safety. Children learn to strike sparks on field trips, laughing when their first campfire catches. They watch marshmallows blister and drip. They stare at sparks floating upward like tiny stars. Teachers tell them it's science. They don't say that it's also ceremony, that every match lit is a thank you whispered to the first ancestor who dared. Historians still file papers comparing char patterns, measuring ash. They'll never measure awe. They can't quantify the hush that falls when firelight touches skin, or the way laughter sounds softer in its glow. They can't chart the moment when warmth turns strangers into companions. In quiet corners of the modern world, you can find people who build fires for no reason at all. Backyard pits, rooftop braziers, tiny candles in windows. They light them the way others pray. The act itself is enough. One such night, a storm rolls over the hills. The power lines snap. The city below goes dark. For the first time in years, the sky is thick with stars. Neighbors step outside, confused, blinking. Someone brings a lantern, someone else finds dry wood. Soon, a small fire flickers in the street's center, reflected in puddles. People gather without speaking. A child tosses a stick in, someone hums a tune. A stranger offers tea. The fire glows brighter, not from fuel but from company. It feels like remembering a dream. The dark, once terrifying, feels like velvet now, soft, forgiving. Across the world, in 1,000 other places, Similar fires bloom on beaches, in courtyards, under broken power lines. Humanity always finds its way back to the same circle of light, not to conquer the night anymore, but to share it. If you listen closely, beneath the crackle, you can hear the echo of that first breath you took beside a burning tree, the same awe, the same gratitude. The flame doesn't belong to the past. It keeps choosing the present again and again through every hand that tends it. The night bends closer, warm at its edges. The fire leans, sighs, and stays. You sit there watching sparks climb into the air until they disappear. You know they aren't gone. They've just gone forward as they always do, carrying the story with them. And the story keeps flowing, slow and golden. Generations rise and fall, and the flame drifts quietly from one to the next. You can trace its trail not only in ash, but in the way people lean together, shoulder to shoulder, faces softened by glow. Fire has become the space between them, the shared warmth that means we belong here, together. Even now, when machines hum under the floor and light pours from screens instead of stars, something deep inside still waits for that old flicker. People wrap themselves in blankets and stare at digital flames on their walls. They listen to the familiar crackle through speakers. The technology changes, but the ache stays the same. The wish for something alive in the room with them. Historians of this quieter age will talk about reconnection movements, about people returning to woods and mountains to learn forgotten skills. They'll say it's nostalgia, but you know better. It's instinct calling itself home. They gather branches, coax sparks into orange bloom, and sit still while the night wraps around them. They watch light touch the ground, the sky, their hands. The sound of burning wood becomes language again, soft, repetitive, hypnotic. On those nights, strangers share food without asking names. Children draw in the dirt with glowing sticks, laughing as sparks trace temporary constellations. Someone starts to tell a story, and the words slip easily into rhythm, shaped by the breath of the fire. The tale doesn't matter, the cadence does. It's the same heartbeat that echoed through caves and across plains, the same hush that filled the first circles of warmth. Sometimes the flame catches a gust of wind and flares higher, startling everyone. Then it calms, purring back to steady rhythm. People smile, murmuring, "It's alive." And they're right. It is. It has always been. In cities miles away, towers gleam, cars rush, clocks spin, but out here time folds inward. The fire measures the night in its own slow syllables: hiss, crack, sigh. Every flicker feels like memory coming home. Historians still debate the turning points of civilization, the inventions that defined us. They'll list tools, writing, agriculture, electricity, but if you could step into their polished halls, you'd tell them the truth. The first invention was warmth. Everything else was just a way to keep it close. The fire lowers itself to coals, glowing steady and deep. The circle around it breathes in rhythm. Someone leans over, adds another log. The flames rise again, bright and new, and in that instant it's every fire ever lit, every dawn that survived the dark, every whisper that said we're still here. The night sighs, the light answers. The story continues, glowing in your hands. The fire never rushes. It teaches patience. It eats slowly, hums softly, keeps time by the sound of wood giving way. Around it, the air smells of sap and smoke, of every life that has ever leaned close to light. Generations keep circling the flame. Parents teach children how to stack wood into tepees, how to shield the wind, how to listen for the small, steady whisper that means the fire is breathing well. Children giggle when sparks jump. Parents smile because they remember the same lesson from other hands long gone. The rhythm never breaks, it shifts shapes. Kitchen stoves, lanterns, furnaces, but the gesture stays the same. Strike, spark, wait, breathe. The first act of creation replayed quietly every morning. The small flame that boils water, the one that softens metal, the one that flickers behind glass in a chapel, each a fragment of the same pulse. Historians, sitting in their warm rooms, they will call this continuity culture. They'll note that rituals surrounding flame never disappeared, only adapted. They'll footnote data and miss the point that fire is not remembered, it is lived. It asks for presence, not reverence. You see it everywhere once you start looking. Street vendors leaning over coals in the blue hour before dawn, pilgrims carrying candles through narrow alleys, mechanics welding, their masks glowing ghostly green, astronomers staring through telescopes, reading the fires of stars as if they were scripture. Every spark in every place, a repetition of your own motion, your own breath. Sometimes in the hush between one task and the next, you feel the scale of it. How the same element that once chased shadows from a cave now powers whole worlds. How the flame you cupped with trembling hands became the sun reflected in every window. It's dizzying, this thought, but also simple. Light wants to move. You just learned how to let it. And so the story widens. People begin lighting fires for others, for rescue, for celebration, for grief. A beacon on a cliff, a lantern in a window, a candle for someone gone. Fire becomes language, gesture, prayer. It says, I'm here. It says, come home. It says, remember, when the night grows long, they still gather, not because they need the heat, but because something inside still needs the rhythm of flame. They sit together, faces soft in the glow, and speak quietly of everything and nothing. The light folds around them like an embrace, and you still hear in this endless present, feel the weight and lightness of it all. The air warm against your skin, the faint hum beneath the quiet, the way every spark climbs upward, carrying a memory too old for words. The fire leans, listening. The world breathes back. The circle holds. The circle always holds. Even when centuries peel away and cities change their names, even when the sky fills with the lights of aircraft and satellites, people keep a small space somewhere for the real thing. Open air, living flame. It's as if the body itself demands it every so often. A reminder that all the power we built began with warmth and waiting. Some nights you can walk through the world and find those small circles hidden in plain sight. A candle flickering on a windowsill for someone still traveling. The orange glow under the forge where a maker shapes iron. A lantern swaying gently in the hands of a night guard, cutting a path through mist. Every one of them keeps a thread alive that reaches back to your hands in the cave. The flame's voice hasn't aged. It still murmurs, soft consonants of air and ash. It still asks for patience. It still rewards attention. If you stare long enough, you start to see the same shapes in it that our ancestors saw. Animals, faces, mountains of smoke that collapse and rise again. The human eye has never stopped painting stories in the light. Historians say that the invention of fire changed sleep itself. They write about circadian rhythms, about first sleep and second sleep, about how the glow lengthened the usable night. They're right, but they forget what it felt like. The hours between dusk and dawn no longer a terror, but a gift. Time to think, to talk, to dream. We learned reflection beside the fire. We learned imagination there too. You can see that inheritance everywhere. Every flickering screen, every stage light, every lamp that turns faces gentle, those are all variations of the same urge to push darkness back just enough to see each other clearly. The same instinct that made you lean forward into the glow. The fire has learned to share itself in countless ways. Neon, LEDs, fiber optics, fusion cores. Yet whenever the world grows too bright, people dim it again. They seek the single flame, the quiet one, because in that smaller light, they can still hear their own hearts. On a hillside somewhere, a group of travelers builds a fire against the wind. They cook, laugh, tell stories. One of them looks up and sees the same constellations you once saw, the same eyes of the sky. She pokes the fire, and the sparks rise like messengers. For a moment, she imagines they might reach those stars, tiny pieces of her warmth joining the ancient blaze above. She doesn't know it, but she's right. Every spark adds to the universe's light, however briefly. Every act of keeping warm keeps creation going. When the group falls silent, the fire fills the gap with its own soft speech. The night listens. The stars lean closer. The flame keeps breathing, faithful as pulse, old as thought. It will go on like this long after every name is forgotten, long after historians stop arguing, long after the last book is written. The fire will still find someone new to teach. It will still find hands to tend it, eyes to wonder, hearts to warm. And when it does, it will whisper the same thing it whispered to you, the same thing it has whispered forever. Stay a while. You're safe here. The dark can wait. The night deepens again, as it always does, and the flame bends low, stretching its long shadow across the faces turned toward it. It murmurs the way a mother does, the way the ocean does, the way breath sounds when the body begins to soften into sleep. Every generation thinks it is the last to remember this kind of quiet, yet the quiet keeps finding them. It waits between the noise of days, in the hush of dawn, in the slow blue hour after storms. Somewhere, someone always lights a flame, sometimes to cook, sometimes to pray, sometimes for no reason at all but to watch it move. In that movement is everything, every thought, every invention, every memory stitched together from heat and air. The flame curls upward, loses itself, returns again, never still, never finished. We learned that rhythm first, then carried it into music, into speech, into the beating of drums and hearts. The fire taught us to repeat without being the same. Historians catalog fragments, charred stones, circles of soot, and call them evidence. They forget that the real evidence is the light in the eyes of anyone who watches fire without speaking. The recognition there is older than tools, older than words. It's the memory of the first time warmth outlasted fear. There are festivals now, scattered through the world, where people burn great figures of wood and cloth, not in anger, but in celebration. They dance as flames roar upward, each spark a prayer for renewal. They sing in languages the first firekeeper would never know, but the meaning hasn't changed. We made it through another winter. We still remember how to begin again. The old stories say fire stole itself from the gods. Maybe. But what if the gods were just lonely? What if they wanted company in the light? You imagine them watching still, like not from above, but from within, the same presence that flickers in every flame, curious, alive, forgiving. Someone nearby adds another branch. The wood catches slowly, then bursts into orange. Everyone sighs at once, the circle glows brighter. Shadows leap onto the trees, onto faces, onto the night itself. The air smells of pine and smoke. It's an ancient perfume, half dream, half proof of being. Far away, unseen, other circles are doing the same thing. A thousand fires lit by hands that will never meet, each one a heartbeat, each one an answer. The world at night looks like a constellation turned upside down, light on the ground, darkness above, balance restored. You close your eyes and feel the warmth drift across your skin. The crackle becomes a rhythm. The rhythm becomes a breath. The breath becomes a song without words. It says, "We are still here. We are still warm. We are still learning to glow." The song hums through the circle, quiet and patient, and the fire sways in time. Sparks float upward like tiny thoughts that forgot to land. Everyone fades, but before it does, it leaves a streak on your eyes, orange, then gold, then gone. The people watching barely speak. They don't need to. The fire is saying everything already. Time thins around the edges. Minutes slide into hours. Hours fold into memory. The same fire that once frightened us now keeps our pulse. It's funny how the thing that could destroy you can also make you gentle. You lean closer, feeling the heat tap against your skin, and for a breath you can almost hear the heartbeat of the world beneath the crackle. Children fall asleep first, heads against their parents' knees, faces lit by soft gold. Someone covers them with blankets, the fabric catching the scent of smoke that will stay for days. A dog circles 3 times and curls beside the fire. The rhythm is perfect. Even the insects have quieted, as if they too are listening to the low hum of warmth. Historians still write, always writing. They'll say humans tamed fire, but sitting here, you know better. We never tamed it. We made peace with it. We learned to meet it halfway, to feed it, and ask for nothing more than its company. You can almost hear your ancestors laughing somewhere in that truth. Someone throws a handful of dry herbs into the flames. The fire turns green for an instant, then blue. Everyone gasps softly, the way people always do when light changes color. It feels like magic, though you know it's chemistry, and yet, aren't they the same thing? Understanding doesn't make wonder smaller. Above, the sky is wide and endless. The stars look closer tonight, as if leaning in to listen. You think about the first time a human ever looked up and saw them. Tiny fires too far to touch. Maybe they wondered if the same warmth burned inside those lights, if someone up there was sitting beside their own glow, watching back. You look at your fire, then at the stars, and the thought feels right. Each spark you've ever made has risen to join them. The sky is just another hearth, bigger, quieter, patient enough to hold all your flames. The wind shifts, the fire bends but doesn't break. It bows gracefully, stretches higher again, keeping balance. The air fills with soft ash that looks almost like snow. You reach out a hand, and one flake lands on your palm, still warm. You smile without meaning to. The dark presses closer, but it's gentle now, like a blanket instead of a threat. Someone begins to hum again, a low, slow sound, half lullaby, half prayer. The fire answers with a sigh, sparks pulsing in rhythm. You can feel the warmth not only on your skin, but in your chest, as if it has slipped inside you to rest. The night isn't gone, it never will be, but you've given it company, and that's enough. The fire hums one last time, steady and full, and you realize that what you're hearing isn't just wood or air. It's every story ever told since the first light in the storm. It's every voice that ever whispered, "Stay with me a little longer." The sound fades into stillness, but the warmth remains, glowing behind your eyelids even after you close them. The dark leans in. The fire leans back. The world breathes evenly between them. The night becomes softer still, as if the world itself is exhaling. The fire settles into a steady red heart, its fierce edges gone. What's left is glow, quiet, certain, pulsing in the dark like memory made visible. Someone stirs the ashes gently, not to wake the flame, but to keep it breathing. The coals respond with a low shimmer. That's the secret every keeper learns. The quiet part of fire is the strongest. You don't have to make it roar to know it's alive. Around the circle, the happy people have drifted into silence. The ones who stayed awake stare into the red light as if it were a mirror. It shows them not faces, but feelings, contentment, gratitude, that sweet ache that says you are part of something too big to name. The same light that once painted cave walls now paints their thoughts. Historians will one day call this shared consciousness. They'll trace it through anthropology, through art, through the need to gather. They'll write about social bonds, about empathy shaped by the flicker of light across eyes. But sitting here, it's simpler than that. You just feel less alone. In the distance, the first hint of dawn brushes the horizon, pale blue, thin as breath. You notice how it doesn't compete with the fire, it joins it. Two lights meeting halfway, ancient companions trading shifts. The night steps back without protest. The dark has learned its place in the balance. You take a deep breath. The air tastes of smoke and dew, that strange mixture of ending and beginning. The flame answers with one last sigh, then settles again. The circle glows faintly pink, the color of cooling embers. Someone quietly begins to pack up, another piles the unused wood. No one rushes. There's reverence in the slowness, the kind that comes only when you know the moment won't last but will come again. A bird calls from somewhere unseen. Another answers. The sound feels like light in the air. The world begins its day. You stand, stretch, feel the warmth still resting on your skin. You glance back at the fire and see it watching you in its own way, calm and trusting. Historians, centuries from now, will find ashes like these, black rings of earth, traces of warmth pressed into the soil. They'll dust them off carefully and whisper theories into the wind. They'll call them remnants, but you know better. Ashes aren't what's left behind. They're what stays to remind the earth that it once glowed. The group begins to walk away, their footsteps soft. Smoke curls upwards, slow and graceful, folding into the morning light. You look once more before leaving, and in the faint shimmer rising from the coals, you almost see faces, the thousands before you who once leaned toward flame, whispering thanks. You smile. You don't need to speak. The world understands the language by now. As you walk, the light grows brighter around you. The sun climbs, the air warms, and somewhere behind, the last ember sighs itself to rest. But even as it fades, you can feel it inside you, a small, steady pulse that hums in rhythm with your steps. The story of fire continues, as it always does, carried now not just in hands or coals, but in hearts that remember how to keep the dark gentle. By midday, the memory of the night fire still clings to you. The smell of wood smoke lingers in your hair, in the folds of your clothes. When you breathe in, the scent settles somewhere beneath your ribs, not heavy, not haunting, just present. It hums quietly, a reminder that warmth can stay even when the flame is gone. You travel with the others down a narrow path, sunlight breaking through branches and patches. Each step feels like a heartbeat. The world seems to move slower after the fire, as if the earth itself respects what you've just witnessed. Every shadow feels softer, every sound less harsh. The fire hasn't vanished. It's changed shape again, diffused into the air, into the light sliding through the leaves. Far ahead, you see a child walking with a small coal trapped in a clay bowl. Thin threads of smoke trail behind her, weaving through the wind. She holds it carefully, both proud and afraid, the same way you once did. The group follows her not out of fear of losing light, but out of reverence for the act. It's not the fire they trust, it's the care. Historians will one day talk about this, about the way reverence turned into tradition, tradition into ritual, ritual into the shape of civilization itself. They'll draw neat lines between discovery and faith, between survival and meaning. But they'll never capture this quiet moment, one small hand cupping warmth against the wind. At the next clearing, the group pauses. The child kneels, sets down the bowl, and breathes gently across the ember. Smoke curls, then blooms. A new flame stirs to life, small, cautious, alive. Everyone exhales together as if the entire tribe has been holding one long breath since nightfall. The new fire catches easily. It crackles and straightens, golden and confident. The faces around it change. 1,000 generations, 1,000,000 evenings, every future reflected in a single glow. You realize this is how fire travels through time, not by sparks or storms, but by hands willing to carry it forward. The wind sighs again, brushing through the trees. The flame answers with a flicker, and for a second you could swear they understand each other. Everything alive seems to know this language, the whisper between heat and breath, between giving and letting go. Someone begins to hum the same wordless melody that seems to follow every fire. Others join, their voices soft but sure. The song isn't about anything, yet it contains everything. The storm, the fear, the hunger, the discovery, the light. It's the sound of belonging. Historians will never find that song. It doesn't survive on paper or bone. It survives in throats, in memory, in the low vibration that happens when people remember they're not alone. It survives in the way someone, somewhere, always hums when tending flame. The day moves slowly. Children chase smoke rings. Someone laughs so hard they fall. Someone else sits still, eyes half closed, face tilted toward the warmth. You feel the same quiet ease ripple through you. No one here is thinking about survival anymore. They're thinking about stories, about love, about the long golden thread that ties all this to what came before. You realize that what started as fire has become something else, a shape for connection, a circle that refuses to break. The flame burns, the smoke rises, the laughter echoes, and the world hums softly in rhythm with it. The light deepens. The sky begins to slip toward amber. The first cool breath of evening returns, gentle and familiar. Someone adds wood. The sparks leap upward, defiant against the coming dark. And you know, as you always have, that the night is never truly empty, not while one spark remembers how to rise. The sun tips low and the day folds back into amber. Shadows lengthen, then melt into one another. The smell of evening settles, damp earth, sweet smoke, a hint of something metallic in the cooling air. Around the new fire, people slow their movements, voices softening until they're almost part of the wind. Someone passes around food cooked in the coals. Steam rises, thick with spice and salt. The fire's light paints everyone in bronze and gold like statues that remember how to laugh. You take a bite, and for a moment, the taste feels like history itself: meat, grain, smoke, memory, everything warm that ever was. The child who carried the ember sits beside you now, her hands still smudged with soot. She's watching the fire the way you once did, entranced, cautious, devoted. Her reflection flickers inside the flame, two faces merged by light. You wonder if she can feel it, that weightless inheritance, that invisible thread running through her veins back to the first time anyone dared to reach out. Historians will call it continuity. They'll write about the transfer of knowledge, about oral traditions and cultural diffusion. They'll fill pages with charts and timelines. But what they can't record is this: the heartbeat that jumps from one body to another across time, disguised as warmth. The way the fire hums quietly between you, telling the same story without words. Someone begins to tell a tale. It's an old one, but no one interrupts. It's about a man who stole fire from the sky, about the gods who chased him, about how he hid the flame inside the hollow of a reed to keep it safe. The story is older than language, but it still works. Everyone listens as if it's new. When the storyteller reaches the part where the man finally brings light to the people, the fire flares and everyone gasps. It feels like the flame knows its own name. The child leans closer to you. "Is it true?" she whispers. You smile. "It doesn't have to be true," you say. "It only has to be remembered." The story winds down, but the silence that follows is its own kind of music. You hear crickets beginning their song, hear the low whisper of wind over leaves, hear the breath of a dozen people resting in rhythm. The fire pops softly, scattering tiny sparks that spiral upward and vanish. Those sparks have their own stories now. Some will drift into the dark, some will fade against the sky, some will land far away where another fire waits to be born. They're all fragments of one endless breath. The child laughs suddenly, chasing a spark with her eyes. "That one's mine," she says. You nod. "Then it'll come back to you." Historians might one day find your ashes too, and they'll catalog them carefully. They'll never know this moment. The laughter carried on smoke, the way the air feels thick with gratitude. But maybe they'll sense something in the soil, a faint trace of warmth that never cooled. The sky deepens to violet. The stars appear one by one, quiet and certain. You tilt your head back, tracing constellations you can almost remember. For a heartbeat, the stars and the fire blur together. Above, below, same shimmer, same breath. The night folds gently around the circle, and the flame leans into its slow rhythm again. The dark doesn't press this time, it rests. It has learned, after so many centuries, to share the world. You close your eyes and listen. The hum of the fire, the murmur of voices, the steady pulse of your own heart, all the same sound now. A single warmth, alive and endless. The air cools just enough to make everyone draw closer again. The circle tightens naturally, bodies turning inward, faces glowing in rhythm with the light. Shadows of hands and heads sway across the ground, a quiet choreography older than memory. Someone hums without realizing it. Someone else joins. The fire listens, catches the tune, dances a little brighter. The stars are sharper tonight. They hang low, full of promise. You can almost imagine them as the other fires of the universe, each one burning with its own story. You think of how long it took for their light to reach you. Thousands of years, maybe millions. And yet here it is, arriving now, landing softly on your skin. Every star a message from some distant moment. Every flicker proof that nothing truly disappears when it glows. The child who carried the ember curls against her mother's side. The flame paints them both the color of honey. Around them, the group speaks in murmurs, small stories about the day, plans for tomorrow, words that hold no urgency. No one feels the need to fill the silence. The quiet feels full, not empty. Historians might someday call this atmosphere social firelight behavior. They'll write about oxytocin, dopamine, the neural patterns of safety and trust triggered by warm light. They'll use words like communal cohesion and emotional regulation. But if they were here, if they could feel it, they'd put their notebooks down and just breathe. They'd understand that fire doesn't only feed bodies, it feeds time. The night stretches, gentle and endless. Sparks lift like small prayers, climb a little, and then vanish. The smoke threads upward and drifts into the stars, a faint gray bridge between now and forever. You find yourself staring into the heart of the fire. It's hypnotic, the slow swirl of orange over red, the way it collapses and rebuilds itself endlessly. You start to see patterns in it, rivers, storms, faces. For a moment, it feels like the flame is looking back, and you realize it might be. It has always looked back. It's seen every version of you, child, wanderer, keeper, dreamer, and it remembers. Someone passes a jug of water around. Everyone drinks, careful not to spill even a drop into the flame. That's an unspoken rule, one older than any law. Never drown what keeps you warm. Respect the balance. Fire doesn't forgive arrogance, but it rewards care. A breeze pushes through the clearing, brushing over the fire so it bends low, nearly out. The group leans forward together instinctively, shielding it with their hands. The flame gutters, then steadies, trembling but alive. It's such a small moment, barely a heartbeat, but it's everything. That's how humanity has always survived, not by power, but by attention. Historians will never mark that in their timelines. They'll call it luck, chance, evolution. But it isn't. It's tenderness disguised as instinct. It's love, written in the language of fire. The breeze dies, the flame regains its rhythm, the hands fall away, slow and reverent. The circle exhales, you can smell the smoke again, sharp and comforting. The fire hums its old song. It has only ever known one melody, really. The sound of things staying alive. Above the stars blink, and one of them streaks downward, a thin trail of light across the night. A child gasps, pointing. "It's a spark," she says. You nod. "Maybe it's ours, coming back." Laughter ripples through the group, light as wind through grass. The fire brightens as if amused. For a moment, you can almost believe it understands. And maybe it does. Maybe that's the last secret the fire ever kept, that it listens, that it remembers, that it knows your warmth as well as you know its. The night goes on, the stars keep watching, the flame keeps breathing slow and sure, and inside its glow, time forgets to move. The night deepens into that perfect stillness that only comes after laughter has quieted. The sky looks infinite, stretched so wide that the stars seem close enough to touch. The fire leans lower, the wood collapsing inward, red cores shining through a skin of gray ash. It looks fragile, but it isn't. Beneath the ash, the heat still hums, steady as a heartbeat. Someone pokes the coals gently with a stick. The glow spreads like breath through lungs. The air fills again with that soft golden color, the one that makes everything look a little kinder. Faces turn back toward one another, and a few tired smiles bloom. No one says it aloud, but everyone feels it. This is the safest place in the world. Historians digging through ruins centuries from now will call these gatherings communal rituals of light. They'll talk about social bonding, about early storytelling and the birth of art. They'll find soot stains on cave ceilings and call them evidence. They'll never know the way the night sounds just before sleep when the fire is the only thing alive enough to move. One of the older travelers begins to speak. His voice is low, the tone gravelly with smoke and time. He tells a story about a mountain that swallowed the sun and a bird that brought it back. His words drift like sparks, catching on the imagination of everyone listening. You can feel how the tale begins to shimmer in the air, blending with the firelight until it's impossible to tell which came first, the story or the flame. You close your eyes for a moment. Behind your eyelids, the red light of the coals glows softly, the way it once glowed on stone walls on the faces of those first watchers. You realize that when people listen together like this, their breathing falls into the same rhythm. The sound of the tribe's breath and the sound of the fire's breath are one. Someone stirs, someone laughs quietly. The story ends. The circle falls back into its easy silence. Above, the stars continue their slow wheel. You can hear the faint rustle of the forest beyond, but it no longer feels separate from you. You are inside the world, not against it. A log breaks in half. A shower of sparks rises like a small constellation. The child claps once, softly. Her mother hushes her, smiling. The old man lays a hand over the coals, feeling the pulse of heat through the ash. "It's not dying," he murmurs. "It's remembering." The words linger. Everyone nods. You watch the embers fade from orange to deep red, to that near invisible glow that only eyes trained by centuries of fire can still see. It's there, quiet but alive, like the last note of a song that refuses to end. The cold begins to creep in, gentle and familiar. Someone pulls their cloak tighter. Someone else moves closer to the coals. The circle holds. The dark leans in again, but softer this time, less an enemy than a companion who knows when to stay quiet. Historians will write that darkness was humanity's first fear. They'll forget that it also became our first friend. Fire didn't destroy the dark, it taught it to listen. The sky shivers with one last falling star. The fire answers with a faint spark. The two lights cross paths for an instant, above and below, as if saluting each other, and the night hums. The air is thick with warmth and sleep. Someone lies down, head on folded arms. Another follows. Soon, only one or two remain awake, eyes half closed, watching the slow heartbeat of the coals. You stay a while longer, not to keep watch, but to say goodbye to the night in its truest form, half fire, half dark, half you, half the world. And when you finally close your eyes, the glow stays behind them. The fire's rhythm becomes your breathing. The warmth becomes your heartbeat. The story doesn't stop, it just changes shape again, waiting for someone else to open their eyes and notice that the dark has never been empty. Dawn. Dawn is a rumor at first, an almost invisible paling behind the trees. The world holds its breath, not wanting to wake too quickly. The air has that faint sweetness that comes only before sunrise, ash, dew, and the quiet musk of cooling earth. The fire knows it's almost time to rest. It folds in on itself, shrinking into a single red memory, humming like an old lullaby. You stir the ashes gently. Beneath the gray, a few coals still glow, their edges pulsing with life. You blow across them, not to reignite, but to remind them they're seen. The faint flare answers, warm and shy. There's comfort in that exchange. The smallest conversation between breath and heat. The others begin to wake. The sound of movement mixes with the morning's soft chorus. Birds beginning their calls, the slow stretching of wood as it dries in the sun. Someone yawns, someone laughs. The fire answers with a hiss, content. Historians, if they could stand here now, would call this transition night yielding to day, danger giving way to safety. But it's more intimate than that. The moment feels like a pulse that never really stops, only shifts tempo. The fire will sleep for now, but it will rise again tonight or tomorrow or next year. It always does. You sit quietly, watching the light change. The gold of the coals fades into the gold of morning, and you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. The first rays of the sun touch your skin, and for a heartbeat you feel both fires, the one within reach and the one too far to touch, woven together in warmth. Someone begins to pack up camp. Others fold blankets, gather stones, pour a little water around the pit, careful not to drown the coals completely. That tenderness still matters. You cover what's left with soil, a thin blanket for sleep. As you do, a small wisp of smoke escapes, spiraling upward, twisting once in the air before dissolving into light. You realize that smoke has always been our way of speaking to the sky, the first signal, the first prayer, the first proof that we could send a piece of ourselves upward. Maybe the gods didn't give us fire, maybe the fire gave us gods. Historians might smile at that, write it down as metaphor, but you can feel it in your bones. Every time someone lights a flame, the universe blinks in recognition. Every time smoke rises, something older than memory leans closer to listen. The camp is almost quiet now. The morning breeze tugs at your hair, cool against your smoke-warmed skin. You look once more at the small mound of earth where the coals rest, hidden but alive, a secret heartbeat buried just beneath the surface. You think about the thousands of fires burning at this very moment, on mountaintops, in kitchens, on distant worlds where humans have carried their light. Every one of them is a continuation, not a copy. The same story told in different accents of flame. You close your eyes and picture them all, the way the light flickers across different faces, different skies, different centuries. The pattern is endless, the rhythm perfect. Fire has no ending, it only trades hands. Someone calls your name. It sounds gentle in the brightening air. You turn, smile, and begin to walk toward the day. Behind you, a thin line of smoke lifts one last time, tracing your path upward before vanishing into the sun. The dark has gone, the warmth remains, and somewhere under the skin of the world, the ember still hums, waiting, remembering, ready. As you walk toward the day, the rhythm of your steps feels like the slow heartbeat the night left behind. The world is drenched in soft gold now, and everything looks freshly made. You pass through air still perfumed with smoke, through grass that bends damp beneath your feet. Each blade catches a spark of light, as if the fire has hidden its smaller selves everywhere, scattered and waiting. You look back once. The camp is empty, but not silent. The hush left behind after a fire dies has its own voice, gentle, certain, patient. It's the sound of a lesson finishing its sentence. You realize that warmth isn't gone when the flame fades. It lingers in the air, in your hands, in the way people speak to each other more softly for hours afterward. As the path widens, you pass other travelers. Each of them carries some version of what you carried: a lantern, a candle stub, a lighter tucked into a pocket. Some don't have flame at all, but still smell faintly of it, a reminder that it has already done its work. Fire isn't just a thing we make anymore, it's the language we all inherited. Historians will keep writing about progress, how we replaced fire with bulbs, with wires, with suns born in laboratories. But you know the truth sitting quietly beneath all of that. We never replaced it. We only built ways to remember it without having to say its name. Every light that hums in a window, every flicker that guides a ship home at night, that's still fire, speaking through new shapes. You reach a hill that overlooks the valley. Below, the city wakes. Smoke from 1,000 chimneys rises like tiny prayers. Rooftops shine, each one catching the morning sun like a spark returning home. From here, it looks as if the world itself is exhaling light. You sit for a while, watching. The horizon glows brighter. It's a different kind of fire now, colder, larger, too far to hold, but it feels familiar. The sun, after all, is the same story written on a grander page, a star that learned how to last. For a moment, you imagine all the hands that ever reached toward warmth, not just yours, not just your tribe's, but all of them. Every generation, every corner of the world. You see their faces overlapping in the air like reflections on water, each one caught in that same flickering rhythm of light and awe. The scale of it is dizzying, yet somehow intimate. You realize that the story of fire is the story of us learning how to keep each other alive. The wind changes, warm for just a second. It brushes your face like a breath from something ancient and kind. You smile and the thought comes easily, certain as pulse. We didn't discover fire, we remembered it. You stand, stretch, and let the sun touch your face. There's no hurry now. The path ahead seems faintly, as if lit from within. Somewhere another fire waits. Not this one, not the next, but one that belongs to someone you'll never meet. You'll pass the warmth along anyway, just by walking, just by being. The story moves with you. The light moves with you. The world hums softly, and you hum back. The road winds down from the hill, and you walk through a world that feels freshly washed. Trees still dripping from dew, air smelling faintly of sap and earth, and the memory of smoke. The light is young, not yet harsh, the kind that forgives everything it touches. Each step feels deliberate, like you're moving through the pages of something older than language. Somewhere ahead, you see thin trails of smoke rising from other camps. It's such a small thing, barely visible, but it fills you with that same quiet pride you felt when the first fire caught beneath your hands. Every wisp is proof that others are still tending what you began. The light is never lost, only shared. You pass a river. The water catches the sunlight and turns it into a dance, a thousand rippling fires across the surface. You kneel, cup your hands, and drink. The water tastes faintly metallic, faintly wild. It cools your mouth, but you can still feel the warmth in your chest. Two opposites, fire and water, making peace inside you. That's what survival has always been. Learning how to balance what wants to consume with what wants to calm. Historians, ever curious, might one day call this the origin of balance, how humans learn to live between forces instead of against them. They'll talk about adaptation, homeostasis, emotional regulation. You'll smile if you could hear them, because all of that is just another way of saying we learned how to listen. You follow the river for a while, its voice steady beside yours. Birds move overhead like shifting sparks, their wings glinting silver in the sun. Insects hum in the grass, and for a heartbeat it sounds like the faint crackle of coals. The world is still singing the same tune. It's just changed instruments. You stop at a bend where the river widens into a shallow pool. The reflection there catches you by surprise. Your face, lit by morning, carries the same warmth you saw in every fire. The eyes, tired, curious, kind, look older than you remember. Not ancient, but part of something unbroken. You lean closer to the surface and whisper, "Thank you." The ripples take your words and scatter them downstream, where they'll drift through reeds and roots until the world finds a way to echo them back. Further ahead, the path meets a small village. Smoke rises from chimneys, thin and blue in the daylight. Children chase one another through the streets, their laughter weaving through the scent of baking bread. Someone waves, and you wave back, though you don't know them. You don't need to. The gesture feels as old as warmth itself. Every window you pass glows faintly, every doorway spilling a little gold onto the ground. The fire is there, invisible but alive, in ovens, in stoves, in lamps. You realize that humanity never left the circle of light. We just made the circle wider. Historians will write about innovation, industry, energy. They'll call it progress. But if you strip all the cleverness away, it's still the same story. People making light so they don't have to be afraid. The tools change. The reason doesn't. You stop at the edge of the village, where the fields stretch out like a sea of green. The wind moves through the crops, and they shimmer under the sun, glowing like a fire turned sideways. You close your eyes and listen. The sound of leaves moving together is soft, rhythmic, like breathing, like flames whispering against air. The world, it turns out, has learned to keep the fire alive even without burning. You stand there for a long time, just breathing. The warmth from the sun, the echo of last night's flame, the kindness in the day, they all hum together in one gentle chord. It's not loud. It doesn't need to be. It's the quiet certainty that the story continues. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you know that when night comes again, the first thing you'll do, without even thinking, is gather wood. By evening, the sky has turned the color of cooled embers, orange at the rim, deep violet in its heart. The day exhales and shadows stretch long across the ground like memories reclaiming their space. You walk until the wind begins to taste like night again, soft and earthy, full of promise. Instinct draws you to a small clearing beside the field, a patch of flat earth ringed with stones. Without thinking, you begin to build. Your hands move the way they always have. Stone, dry grass, small sticks, larger branches. The rhythm is older than thought. When the spark finally catches, the sound is almost shy, just a faint crackle, a sigh of air remembering what to do. Then, in a blink, warmth blooms again, reaching up to kiss your face. The fire's light spills across your hands, and you notice how steady they've become. You remember the first time, how your pulse raced, how fear and wonder mixed like twin flames. Now there's only calm, familiarity, gratitude. You realize that what once felt like survival now feels like belonging. A few villagers wander over, drawn by the glow. No one asks why you lit it. They just sit down, grateful for the warmth. Soon a circle forms again, as if the fire itself summons it. It always has. Fire doesn't like solitude. It needs witnesses, needs breath, needs eyes to reflect its dance. Children toss small twigs into the center, gasping each time a spark jumps. Someone begins to hum, always someone. The notes rise into the cooling air, gentle, certain. You find yourself joining without realizing it. The melody doesn't need words, it's one everyone already knows, written in the rhythm of the flame. Historians, if they could see this, would call it ritual continuity or ancestral memory encoded in communal behavior. They'd write long papers about the psychological comfort of light in darkness. But if they sat here, if they felt this pulse, they'd put their pens down and close their eyes. They'd understand that fire is not a subject, it's a companion. You watch the faces around you glow and fade in the rhythm of the flames. It feels like time itself is breathing. The night thickens overhead and the stars blink awake, patient and familiar. You remember the thought from last night that maybe each star is a fire remembering itself. You still believe it. Someone offers you a cup of something warm. Tea, maybe, or soup. You drink and the heat slides through you, the same comfort in a new form. Fire, water, breath, all passing through one another, trading places like dancers. You exhale, and for a moment your breath looks like smoke. A child looks at you and asks, "Did you make it?" You nod. "We all did." She grins. "Then it's ours?" You smile. "It always was." The fire snaps once, loud enough to make everyone laugh. The laughter rolls around the circle like a breeze, and the flames sway in time with it. For a moment, the entire world feels balanced. Heat and dark, life and stillness, joy and quiet. Historians will later write that humankind's oldest miracle was learning how to create fire. They won't say that the greater miracle was learning how to share it. The night grows deep again, but it doesn't feel empty. The dark has been tamed, not conquered, but befriended. You lean back, watching the stars multiply, each one flickering like a fire seen from impossibly far away. The thought makes you smile. Somewhere, another circle of people must be sitting by their own flame, watching the same stars, thinking the same thought. The fire hums softly, content. You realize that this moment, this warmth, this rhythm is the center of every story ever told. Every myth, every invention, every hope begins here. The circle, the flame, the hush between sparks. The night leans closer. The fire answers. The world breathes evenly between them, and you, the keeper of the ember, close your eyes and rest in the light you've carried all this way. The fire holds steady as the night stretches deeper. The stars above it look like reflections scattered across the dome of the world, and for a heartbeat, you can't tell which side of the sky you're on. The dark is no longer heavy. It feels soft now, wide and breathing, as if the whole world has finally relaxed. The villagers talk less as the hours pass. The circle shrinks as some drift home, leaving behind the ones who prefer to stay with the flame until morning. You are one of them. There's a peace that only exists in the hours between midnight and dawn, when even time seems to rest its hands. The fire sighs, a quiet release, wood collapsing in on itself. You shift closer, feeding it another small branch, not because it needs it, but because you do. The warmth finds you again, slips through your fingers, brushes against your cheek. The light reflects in your eyes, and for a moment you see someone else's gaze there. Ancient, familiar, 1,000 faces superimposed across time. The first firekeeper, the first watcher, you. Historians might call this sensation ancestral resonance. They'll build theories around DNA memory, the way smell or light can stir buried instincts. But you know it isn't science, it's inheritance. The warmth in your palms is the same heat that once saved us all. You carry it the way trees carry rings, silently marking every survival. The wind picks up, gentle and curious. It threads through the grass, toys with the edges of the flame. The fire flickers but doesn't falter. You realize then that balance has always been its nature, to burn just enough, to move but not consume. Everything the fire does is a lesson in how to live. You think of all the times humanity forgot that, of cities burned, forests turned to ghosts, suns trapped inside metal and glass. Even then, even when we lost control, we kept returning to it, humbler each time. Fire forgives slowly, but it forgives. That's why it still comes when we call. Someone across the circle begins to hum again, low, barely a vibration. It's the same tune that drifted through the night before, the same one that's followed every fire since the first. You hum with them. Others join. No conductor, no plan, just instinct. The sound is soft, round, wordless, a human heartbeat stretched into music. Historians would call it communal bonding, an ancient prelude to language. Maybe they're right. Maybe every word we've ever spoken was born from the sound of breath shared beside flame. The rhythm of the fire became rhythm of thought, rhythm of speech, rhythm of memory. You can hear that history in every note now, glowing and alive. The wind settles. The fire answers with a soft crackle that feels like applause. Someone chuckles under their breath. A child sleeping nearby turns over, their face half lit in gold. You can see the reflection of the flame in their eyelashes, a flicker so small it almost hurts with beauty. And suddenly you understand, this is what the fire has been waiting for all along. Not worship, not fear, just continuity. A hand to hold it, a breath to keep it alive, a witness to its patience. You lean back on your elbows and look at the stars again. They seem closer tonight, like they've drifted down to see how the story ends. You wonder if somewhere another creature is discovering fire for the first time, somewhere in another world, another era, cupping its first warmth, whispering the same breathless thought. We did it. The air cools again, but you're not cold. The warmth has rooted itself inside you in the quiet spaces between heartbeat and thought. You close your eyes and feel it spread, a tiny universe glowing beneath your ribs. The fire whispers softly, its voice low and certain. You can almost hear words in it now. Not commands, not warnings, just the same message it has always given, from the first spark to this moment. Keep me close. Keep each other warm. And beneath the blanket of stars, surrounded by the oldest light in existence, you promise that you will. The night folds itself into its final hour, that still blue quiet before the first birds wake. The fire burns low, a soft constellation of embers now, each one pulsing like a heartbeat trapped beneath the ash. Every rise and fall of the glow feels like breathing, slow, content, eternal. You sit closer, wrapping your hands around the heat. There's a sweetness in this hour, a kind of peace that doesn't ask for anything. The world has learned to whisper. Even the wind has stopped its wandering. Somewhere in the distance, a rooster tries the first note of dawn, uncertain, then silent again. You look at the people around you, the ones still awake, still glowing in the low light. The faces could belong to any time, any age. Firelight makes everyone ancient and newborn at once. Wrinkles blur, eyes soften, even the lines of worry fade. It's as though the fire has carved out a moment outside of history, a place where no one grows older. Historians might call this illusion. They'd write that the hypnotic effect of flickering light calms the human nervous system, that it slows perception, lowers the pulse, tricks the mind into timelessness. But they'd miss the real truth. The fire doesn't trick you, it reminds you. This is what time feels like when it isn't trying to run away. The first pale light of morning spills faintly over the horizon. The stars dim, reluctant to go. The dark draws back with the grace of something ancient that knows it will return. The fire's glow shifts to match the dawn's, red into gold, gold into silver, silver into white. For a few breaths, you can't tell which light belongs to the world and which belongs to you. Someone stirs the ashes one last time, coaxing out the smallest flare, a farewell more than a revival. It answers obediently, a last spark rising and fading into the new sky. You realize that every dawn is built on the ashes of the night before. Fire has always known how to die beautifully. It doesn't vanish. It transforms, waits, dreams in silence until someone calls it again. You stand. The others follow, slow, quiet, not wanting to disturb the stillness. The ashes smoke faintly, whispering their soft gray song. You cover them gently with earth, pressing the warmth down as if tucking it in. The ground hums faintly beneath your palm. Historians might one day find this spot, a circle of stones, a patch of dark soil, a trace of carbon. They'll take samples, mark coordinates, write papers. They'll never know the sound the ash made when you touched it. They'll never feel the heartbeat of warmth that still sleeps under the dirt. The sun lifts higher, gold spilling across the fields, across the faces of everyone beside you. The fire's light doesn't fade, it multiplies. It lives now in the shine of skin, in the shimmer of dew, in the pulse that keeps you upright. The warmth has moved inward, and you understand the fire was never the destination. It was the mirror. You start walking again, slow, easy, unhurried. The others fall into step beside you. Behind you, smoke rises once more, faint as memory, curling into the sky like handwriting. And though no one says it aloud, you can feel it. The same silent vow that has followed fire since the beginning. We'll keep it burning. The morning wind carries the promise forward, scattering it into the sunlight, into the soil, into the next beginning. The fire sleeps now. The world glows in its place. The story continues. You walk until the road disappears into the hush of morning. The air feels new again, as if the world has been washed in light. Everything gleams, the stones, the bark, the thin blades of grass that bead with dew. The warmth that once came from the fire now lives in the breath of the earth itself. You stop at a rise where the land opens wide, and from there you can see forever. The faint trails of other fires smoldering in far-off valleys, threads of silver smoke winding into the brightening sky. Each one marks a story like yours, a circle of faces, hands passing light, someone whispering into the dark, "Stay." The thought makes you smile. You realize that humanity has always been doing this, building small suns wherever the great one could not reach. We've built them in wood and coal, in gas and wire, in love and memory. Fire, in all its forms, has always been how we tell the universe that we refuse to vanish quietly. Historians will call this resilience an evolutionary success, a triumph of adaptation. But you can feel it more simply. It's hope, warm and ordinary. The refusal to accept silence when warmth can still be made. A group of farmers passes by, their tools gleaming like captured dawn. One of them nods to you, and for no reason at all, you nod back. The exchange is enough. It's another kind of light, one that moves without flame from eye to eye. You walk again, and the world begins to wake. Birds gather in the trees, their wings like sparks. The river ahead catches the sunlight and scatters it everywhere, a moving fire that needs no fuel. You pause to watch it, realizing how many ways warmth exists now, inside the ground, inside engines, inside hearts. Fire has changed, but its song hasn't. Somewhere nearby, a bell rings. The sound carries far, clean, and low. Villagers will come soon, carrying kindling for the evening hearths, tending what's left from last night's flame. The cycle never stops, it only turns. The ember becomes ash, the ash becomes the earth feeds wood, that becomes fire again. There's poetry in that circle, one too old to need words. Historians might call it sustainability or resource renewal. You just call it remembering. The world remembers what to do when the night returns. The sun climbs higher. Its light feels less like day and more like a promise kept. The air is warm again, not from proximity, but from belonging. You sit beneath a tree and close your eyes. The sun flickers through the leaves, 1,000 little flames dancing above your head. In the darkness behind your eyelids, the old fire still glows, the one from the cave, the one in the field, the one from last night. You see it all at once, every era, every spark, every hand that ever fed it. The image is endless, it breathes. You understand finally that fire was never about survival alone. It was a lesson disguised as light. To stay, you must share. To live, you must glow for others. The wind changes direction, warm again, brushing your cheek like a familiar voice. It carries a whisper, one you can't quite hear but fully understand. We are still here. The light has not gone out. You open your eyes. The world around you shines. The fire's body may rest beneath the soil, but its spirit is everywhere, rising in smoke, glinting on rivers, living quietly behind every heartbeat. You take one last deep breath. The air tastes like morning and memory. and somewhere deep inside, an ember stirs. You smile, then you walk on, carrying the oldest warmth in existence, steady, invisible, alive. The sun sinks again. It always does. Its light folds back into the hills, golden at first, then amber, then that deep, soft red that feels like memory more than color. You walk until the air cools against your skin, until the shadows lengthen into familiar shapes. The world feels quiet again, expectant, like it's waiting for something it already knows will come. You stop beside a patch of dry earth and crouch low. The wind is gentle tonight, whispering through the grass as if reminding you where to begin. You strike flint to stone. The spark jumps, lands, hesitates, then takes. The grass catches with a faint sigh, and once again the first light is born. The fire grows slowly, stretching its small hands into the dark. The warmth brushes your face, and in it you feel the whole story returning. Every flame that ever lived, every face that ever leaned close to the glow, every breath that ever whispered thanks. It's all here, folded into this one small circle of light. Others arrive, drawn as always. A few sit beside you, a few stand back, all of them watching. The faces change, the clothes change, the world changes, but the expression never does. Awe has no language. The flame paints everyone in the same color, human. You realize this is how it will always be. Long after your name, long after theirs, long after the last city crumbles and the last book turns to dust, someone will kneel in the dark, strike stone to spark, and make the same quiet promise: we're still here. Historians won't be there to record it. They won't need to be. The evidence will be written in light. You lean closer, letting the fire's warmth fill your hands. The night folds around you, gentle and familiar, as if the universe itself has crouched to watch the flame. The air hums softly. The stars blink, countless and patient. And between them and the earth, between heat and breath, the story continues, unbroken, unending, eternal. Now, let the light grow smaller. Watch the fire settle into itself, each flame tucking in for sleep. The glow fades from gold to amber, from amber to red, from red to that deep, quiet pulse that no longer needs to prove it's alive. You feel the heat on your skin soften, like a slow exhale at the end of a long story. Breathe in with it. The air is warm, familiar, safe. You can smell the earth cooling, the faint trace of smoke curling upward in thin silver lines. Somewhere nearby, someone shifts closer, wrapping a blanket tighter, their movement gentle as a sigh. The stars spread wider overhead. They don't rush, don't demand. They just shine, ancient and slow, keeping their promise to the dark. You feel yourself matching their rhythm now, steady, patient, endless. Each breath grows longer, each thought lighter. You are back where you began, surrounded by warmth, by quiet, by the feeling of belonging. The world hums softly beneath you, the fire's heartbeat now your own. You close your eyes. Behind them, the ember still glows, small but steady. You realize it will stay there even after sleep. Inside your chest, behind your breath, somewhere the dark can't reach. Outside, the last spark rises, a tiny traveler heading upward. It drifts until it vanishes into the stars, indistinguishable from the light that was already there. The circle is complete. The night is kind, the fire rests, and so do you. Sleep now. The warmth will keep you safe. The story will keep burning. Sweet dreams.